On Saturday night, we'll be visiting the most haunted house in Britain. But will the ghosts be there? Can you take it?
Ghostwatch, a Screen One special for Halloween, Saturday at 9:25 on One.
How are you doing? Thanks very much for speaking to me.
Not at all. Pleasure.
It's lovely to see the Fox Hill Drive right behind you there.
Yeah.
Congratulations, first of all, congratulations on 30 years. I mean, it's flown by. I remember watching it when I'm 47, so I was 30. I was 17 when I sat down and watched it with my mum. I remember watching it in the front room, and I don't know whether to say thank you for that or thank you for 30 years of nightmares, because it really did shock me, because I had no idea whatsoever that it was all scripted. So I mean, that's my first question. I was reading that the BBC did actually kind of publicize it, that it was a scripted show. Now, is that something that was from the very word go, it was always going to be a scripted show, and it was going to be for the public to kind of realize that it was scripted, or was it always the kind of this kind of charade that it was maybe not as realistic as as fictional as it might have appeared?
Well, it came out of the Screen One slot, which was a 90-minute. There was a whole section of 90-minute films that were played at the weekend. So there was no surprise that it was a fiction.
Right.
I think so it was scripted, it was commissioned, and it went up the chain of command and down again. So there was no surprise in that sense. It took 4 weeks to shoot. It had a film. It was from the film department. And so it was, to all intents and purposes, it was a drama. But because of the nature of the script, I just, delved into making it look as much like a live program as possible, because that's where the drama was set. Mm-hmm. So I did upset Richard Brooke massively by insisting that it should be on tape, because a Screen One should be on film with all the best actors and glitterati of their time, So it all, so no, it wasn't a surprise. It was scripted, yeah.
It was, okay. But I mean, you mentioned that you should have been kind of shot on the best equipment with all glitterati and etc. But I don't think you could have got a better cast than you got there. I mean, Sarah,
with the best performing actors.
It was fantastic. No, but that's what I mean. I mean, they weren't. I mean, their background wasn't performing arts as such. It was more kind of these live or kids programs or talk shows, those kind of things. And I think that really paid off. So, I mean, directing these kind of actors who weren't really actors must have been quite a leap for you, quite a, kind of laying down the gauntlet for yourself.
Oh yeah, no, it was a massive. It was a massive challenge in the sense that I've never ever done it. Well, never done anything. I've never done anything before or since like Ghostwatch.
But what was it like, kind of directing these well-known characters? I mean, and it played in your favor, because normally if you watch a film like a horror movie, that we have to get to know these characters to kind of invest ourselves in these characters. No, but because these are much loved characters, we've seen them on the screen for years and years, that kind of played in your favor. But how was it from an actor's point of view to direct these people who had to kind of play themselves in a way, if you will? But
yes, I mean, Michael Parkinson had this fantastic style that he was famous for, which was intimate and very generous to the whoever he was interviewing, and we definitely wanted to keep that style. He wasn't in any way trained. When we brought the script into rehearsal room, or when he'd looked at the script and was in rehearsal room, he was starting to read it like it was auto cue. And so it had that slightly poetic rhythm of reading it off, slightly crossed with trying to make it natural. But auto cue is very, very distinctive. Audiences can hear it. I mean, they can hear what they're doing. So I wasn't interested in that. So I said, we can't do that. So interestingly, Gillian, his co-host, was a classical actress, was word perfect. But we let Parkinson go a bit. We went like, you need to make this point, and finish on this point, and try and help Gillian into her next. Do you know what I mean? Into her next script. So, and he was perfect at that. He knew, I mean, that was part of his training.
Yeah.
So as a journalist, and as part of his training as a journalist, he could fill gaps. And we were working to a wall that was shot 3 weeks earlier with gaps.
Right.
And we would rehearse it, and he would be, that was his, massive skill, was that he could fill those gaps with ease. I mean, we'd rehearse and rehearse and rehearse, very, very long takes. But he was brilliant at that. But we let him off the hook. We weren't going, no, it says this, I didn't ever rein him in.
Yeah.
As long as,
sorry, I was going to say at the same time that he was very deadpan at the same time. He was perfect pitch all the way through, which I thought was fantastic. Yeah.
Well, that was a massive asset. That's that slight, well, the disbelief that he brought to it.
Yeah.
Gave it some gravitas and kept it down, and played into those people who, he was on the side of the unconverted, which was always my ambition, was that we cross that barrier to the unconverted.
And I also thought something that worked really well in the same way was Mike Smith and Sarah Green, obviously, because they're a married couple, but they had to be apart there. So that kind of really worked in your favor. Were they always going to be the go-to actors that you were going to have reporting from each side of the from the studio and from outside?
So that was a late addition. I mean, there was always going to be an actor manning the phones. So that part was always there. The one that Mike did in the end. So that part was always there, but we sent the script to Sarah Green, and he wanted to read it, and he wanted to be in it. Right. So it came back to Michelle Guiche, who was the casting director, and she said, "Well, I think it's a good idea. What do you think, Leslie?" And I said, "I think it's a good idea. Let's take it to Ruth and Stephen." And Stephen, it's well known, he said it didn't take him long, but he thought it was an asset to have man and wife working on the same thing.
Definitely. I mean, really, especially Mike's kind of reactions when there's like, "Don't go upstairs, don't go upstairs." You just kind of really invest. But was he fully aware of everything that was going to go down before? I mean, imagine, because it was also scripted, he was all well aware of what was going down, no?
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah, it'd all been shot 4 weeks before, so he knew what his wife had been up to. Yeah. No, so that live, I mean, people today say, "Oh, well, shot it in one night." And I go, "No, we did not shoot that in one night."
And then I think the only thing that you did actually, did you shoot live was the actual phone in? Is that correct? That you had people actually phone in? No, that wasn't in the on the night.
No, but what we did do, no, we didn't. The phone-ins into the program were not live.
Right.
They were pre-record. They were either I brought the actors into the studio so that they could talk with ease with Michael Parkinson and Gillian, but some were recorded in in post-production. But what we did do is that the flag that had the phone number plus another bank of phones were manned for when it went out, so that was live.
Right.
Do you see? So it's a sort of different thing.
So people did phone in, but they didn't actually come onto the program, no?
No, nobody came onto the program.
Right, there was nothing live.
Program. So the live phone-ins on that night that it went out went to the BBC switchboard or to a parapsychologist switchboard that was in the same building that was there specifically to answer Ghostwatch inquirers.
I mean, talking of that, because I mean, I imagine there was a lot of calls came in because I think it was the most watched program of the evening, no?
And so the thing is, it's got a big stat for single drama.
Did you hear kind of any strange stories or occurrences that kind of people imagined might have kind of been related to what they were watching at all? Because obviously some of the calls that you got in the actual show were kind of related to what was going on. Did anybody actually call you very seriously and say, "This is happening, I think it may be related to what I'm watching on the television"? Is there anything that you heard about in that kind of vein?
No, I'm sure some things. I'm sure Ruth told me about, because she was there. She helped man the phones, the producer. I think there was something about something smashed, which echoed that echoed the smashed table that was actually phoned in. No, it was mainly. I think it was mainly how people felt about it.
Right. I mean, the criticism is no more than anything else. No. Yeah.
Oh, no, I wouldn't like to say that. I think it
No,
was there was a fair old compliments, but
no, no.
yeah,
But
mainly.
what I meant to say was because of kind of the ruckus that came afterwards. No,
Yeah,
the
yeah.
aftermath, of course. That a lot of people. What was the biggest surprise? I mean, because you said that it was scripted from the word go. What was your biggest surprise in terms of reactions after the show? I mean, obviously the 80s, 90s were very big. It was kind of the Mary Whitehouse time. There was a lot of censorship compared to there is now. But what was the kind of the biggest surprise for you afterwards?
Well, the biggest surprise was the confusion that people seemed to have. Seemed to be no. It wasn't at all like anything else in the sense that nobody said to you didn't get this thing like there wasn't a whole raft of people saying I really hated it. That I thought it obviously wasn't real. It was every which way. There were people saying I thought it was terrible. The acting was so bad. I thought it was terrible. The acting was so good. I thought it was brilliant because I realized it wasn't true. I thought it was brilliant because I didn't realize it was true. So we couldn't understand at all. It was a bit like a car crash. There was no obvious response to it at all. There was no obvious response. It wasn't like, sometimes you do a piece of work and everyone goes, well, the ending didn't work. And you think, okay, the ending didn't work. I mean, it was all over the place. People were saying, well, it was obviously fake until the police arrived, and then that was obviously real, which of course it wasn't. So it was all over the place. And I suppose I think it was because of the language that I used was so cleanly aligned to the language of the day. That's what I think.
Yeah. But why would you? I mean, obviously, 30 years, and we're talking about it now. I don't think you could quite have imagined that it was going to have so much of a repercussion, not just kind of the year that it came out, but 30 years later. What do you think it is? Why is this so long lasting? I just recently watched it ahead of the interview, and the thing is, it really does still scare. It really is quite scary. I don't know if it's because you've still got that kind of 80s, 90s feel of television back then, or what it is, but there's something about it that really still works to this day.
Well, yeah, I mean, you must know about your own work. It's really difficult to say about your own work what is working and what isn't. But I do feel I did enter the whole. I mean, sometimes people talk about hoax and spoof, all that sort of language. None of that entered my head at all. I was with utter integrity. I was trying to look deep into Stephen's script and look deep at television language and make this drama breathe through the television language of the moment. And I had great fun sort of researching all that what was happening right at the time. And BBC was really a great place for that because they had a lot of research and development with types of software and page peel, and Debbie and Harry had come out, and superimposition. So that's where I was going. So maybe I'm just thinking I really did approach it with a sort of honest heart, and maybe that helps. I don't know.
No, I presume so. Yeah. Something that really still freaks me out to this day. Just watching the other day, the same is the voice, especially the voice of Pipes when we start to hear the voice. And that was something that I just hit me really hard when I was a kid, and it just hit me again the other day. Is it correct that was your voice that they used in the end? I thought it was. Yeah. I think you originally had a voice actor, but it didn't work out. Now, can you tell me a little bit what happened there? What was it? Was it the voice wasn't the exact voice that you were going for, or
so
what happened there?
I mean, it was traditional that if you had a voiceover, you would actually employ a voiceover artist, and they were really expensive in those days. They cost a lot an hour, and they were. I suppose there was some niche that they were. They must have been used. I don't know. Well, anyway, so we employed this voiceover artist, and of course he was super talented with accents. And he was super talented, for any region or any like you could ask him to do anything, but except when we were talking about a ghost, it was a completely different thing, and it was a bit. I can't remember what he actually did, but he was he cost a lot an hour. And so he went, and we were in the dubbing theatre, and I said, it's absolutely not what I want. Absolutely not what I want. And the guys and in the the sound guys were saying, well, what are you looking for? And they put me in the booth, and I said, look, it's something like this. And when I came out, they go, well, why do we need to do it again? So
for me, it's one of the most memorable moments in the film. And a lot of, I mean, having seen a lot of exorcist type horror movies, that type of voice is crucial, because that either works or it doesn't work. So that, I don't know, what did you, when you went into the booth, did you not feel it working when you were doing it? What was it that the other people saw in your voice that they said, we don't need to go anywhere else for this?
So what I was trying to think of is, I mean, I was trying to think of someone. I was trying to think of someone who was in a terrible state, because I assume that if there is hauntings or something that is latent, that children or whoever pick up, I was working on the basis that they're in a very dark space, personally, not in a dark space necessarily to scare everybody else, but in a very dark space themselves.
So definitely. Something, I mean, so I said that the voice in horror movies, the voice is very important if there's kind of like a possession or something, but something that's very important in a lot of horror movies is the kids as well. And the two girls that you got, well, the whole family, the three ladies are fantastic. That must have been quite a challenge to cast those three, no? Especially the two young girls, to do something that has to be portrayed as almost as if it's a realistic and authentic live show, no?
Yes. I mean, but still, I work with Michel Guiche closely, the casting director, and we were lucky to find the sisters, because that meant a lot to me that they were actual sisters. So there was that simpatico, that very natural simpatico. They didn't have to get to know each other at all. So that was great. I suppose working with them, I'm very conscious again that with the smallest especially, to learn the words sometimes sets it in stone and makes it feel very unrealistic. So I would keep it quite loose, and on the day say, look, this is what we're going to talk about. And Sarah Green was brilliant with them. She really brought them along and helped them, and would prompt them in the way that a television presenter would.
I mean, you mentioned there that Sarah Green was very, very good with them. She was almost like the maternal figure there more than the mother. Because was that specifically why you took the mother out into another studio and had left kind of Sarah Green with the other two kids in the house?
Yes. Stephen talks about that. Yeah, so it's this sort of television mother. Yeah,
definitely. Yeah. Anyway, just to finish off, because we're running out of time, just to finish off, I was reading that in the early, about 12, 13 years ago, the BBC planned some kind of miniseries shoot-off, spin-off to say kind of what happened in the aftermath of the show. Was that something that you ever talked to about?
No, I don't. I didn't hear about that, actually.
No. So, and then you've never been contacted by anybody to do something in a similar vein since that came out at all, whether it be the BBC or to make another film in the same kind of.
Well, first of all, they'd have to approach Stephen, because it's his property. Yes, it did. It was once. I remember Ruth talking about it. We talked about it vaguely, but it's really difficult to go back, I think.
Yeah, why do you say it's difficult to go back, especially with all the love? I mean, there's going to be in the cinemas again, and all this love that's being poured on it again.
Well, to redo
people would
something,
love
to redo something. I don't know. I think. Well,
not redo it, but to branch out with it a bit. I don't know. Can you not see it?
Oh, I'll talk to Stephen. I think we're quite. Yeah, it is a difficult path to.
No, but I imagine you're happy with what's happening. The fact that you just were able to talk about 30 years later, obviously is fantastic. Yeah, definitely. Listen, Lesley, thank you so much for your time. Congratulations on the 30th anniversary, and hopefully we can speak about the 40th one sometime soon.
Yeah, hopefully.
All right. Thanks so much for your time. Take care.
Yeah, thank you.
Now,
See
bye
you,
now. Cheers.
Stop it! Stop it, Susie!